for the Purdue game.
And I just missed it.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There you go.
All right, on roll call, Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Here.
Mrs. Gelbaugh isn't here. We'll have a motion for that in a second. Dr. Lewis.
Here.
Mrs. Rankin.
Here.
Mr. York.
Here.
Am I going to make a motion to excuse her? All right, I need a motion and a second to excuse Leah.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, she'll be excused. All right, has everybody looked at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah. There's one thing. The first page under when Assistant Fire Chief Copeland presented to us The sale of engine 67 was for $125,000. It says $130,000 there. It's the first page, first paragraph under permission to address council.
Okay.
So it's 125.
That was a good catch.
What's a recent topic?
All right, motion and a second to accept the minute, unless there's
First,
any,
we need a motion second to amend. And then-
motion and a second to amend.
So moved. Second.
Second. Excuse me, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, now a motion and a second to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
I will abstain. I wasn't here.
You're a good boy.
Okay. All right, in communications, we have the chief, starting with the chief's annual report.
Who's on your back?
Chief has done a tremendous job putting this together. I hope everybody's had a second to really look through this. It really helps to outline a number of things that our police department, their engagement in the community and things that they do in the community. You know, not just keeping us safe, but, you know, the Christmas program with the credit cards and other things like that. I mean, these are really great things. And I think we owe a special thanks basically to Chief Hines, who organizes this, oversees this, and keeps this all on track. And I would like to say also, I'd like to take a minute here to call attention to the fact that I believe it's on this date, Chief. Chief has been here 34 years in the village of Mariemont.
Wow.
Yes, I mean, that's quite the accomplishment, huh? Yes. And with any luck, he'll be around for another 34.
Oh, no.
No, who's the name?
He and I are the same age, and I don't want that.
You're still a young man, you're gonna have it.
All right, anyway, like I said, it's a lengthy report, it's a good report. Any questions then regarding Chief Copeland's, the fire report?
Could I ask if there's anything, Chief Hines, you wanted to highlight in all of the data you presented?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything in your report that you wanted to highlight in all the data presented?
No, as you can see, there was a major increase in drug arrest, and I credit that to Dasty and Officer Kurtz with the K-9 program. They're just doing, Dasty and Officer Kurtz are doing a phenomenal job, as well as all of our officers. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for the compliments, but you know, I'm only as good as the people that work for me, and I got the best that work for me. And yeah, I think that's one of the major things that you would see there that increased was the drug enforcement. But like I said, I credit that to the K-9 program. Thank you.
Yeah. Dog's working out really well.
Very well.
Very well, very well. All right, again, moving on to the fire report. Any questions for Assistant Fire Chief Copeland? Dan, do you have any comments about it you wanted to make?
This is our monthly report. I don't want to double up with two monthly reports. Ours will be out. Well, so you'll have it in your hands in the next week or so.
Okay, that's great, okay. All right, John Scherpenberg's report, the service report. John, any comments you would like to make? Not at this time? Well, that's a bit of an oddity, but. All right, I mean, it's nicely detailed, it's nicely laid out. All right, Mr. Holloway in the building department's report.
Does he come to those things? Holloway?
Building permits
Come to these
are,
meetings?
you think it was a slow month? Yeah, somewhat? It's a slow month, or was a slower month?
It was a slower month than normal. I'd say there's still a number of compliance things we're following up on. And even today, it seemed like trees were blooming as well as remodel. So I'm expecting March to be a better month.
Okay. Well, we move into the warmer weather. People want to get back to remodeling. If they can afford it.
Yeah, and I just like in your report, on the detail, 23 hours, 28% on compliance and violations, and I think that we've ignored that for a long time, so I applaud you for that.
Till he comes to your house.
All right, the tax administrator's report, Mr. Barlow. Could you stand up for a minute? Let me introduce. This is Chuck Barlow. This is our new tax administrator that has been hired recently, taking over for Deanna Dare's old position. Chuck, you feel like you're getting settled in? You feel like?
Yeah, we're good, yeah.
Okay, everything, yeah.
It's
Tax
coming
money's-
together. Luckily, it's the same software I used at Norwood before, so it's just rolling right, just get used to the office and laid up how I want it compared to how Deanna had it.
Yeah.
Basically, so.
Yeah, okay. So, seems like a good fit.
I hope so. I was telling the chief earlier today, I absolutely love being here.
Oh, great.
I love it here.
Great,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You're
Okay.
having a hard time getting rid of me.
Any comments on the report? I mean, it seems,
I added the last couple of pages. That is a projection sheet for this year. I talked to Mr. Morgan, we haven't officially met, but he sent me the projection. So it's broken down, and you can see there's a 2-year average to get the monthly projection, just so we have an idea where we are.
yeah. Yeah.
So far, it's been a good year.
Yeah.
So we should be on numbers after the first quarter.
Okay.
So,
I just have one question. It may be easier if I show you. You have a March year-to-date actual, but March isn't over yet.
that's just through,
That's through today?
that's added, yeah.
Okay.
I just added March, yeah, that was through, actually probably about the third or fourth.
Okay,
The third, yeah.
Yeah,
thanks.
yes, the third, yeah. It adds up, that's why the other projection, you kind of have to wait, it's a snapshot.
Right.
So at the end of the quarter, but that, I should have cleaned it up. This next coming month, you'll have up to the 3 quarters, and going forward, I'll cut off at that month, so we'll be a little less,
Okay, thank you.
but yeah, it's up to
Curious.
date.
But welcome, I haven't said hi yet, so.
How you doing? Any other questions? And do you want all those sheets? I guess I'll ask that too. Because I add the projection at the end, and there's a summary. I don't think Deanna used to look one of her old reports. But it's kind of the same stuff, but you want all of that? Or is there any other information you might want?
Hey, Tony, with the projection, because you and I met and worked some of the revenue side as well. Because this was like the old numbers, that we had before. Is it?
Yeah, we may have to update that then.
Yeah, it seems might be a little low.
But yeah, because it's lower than last year's actuals, and so it's like,
Right,
okay.
that's why I was kind of surprised, but I thought, well, we'll go that right now then.
But we're just re-updating those right now, so.
I'll get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then of course, there's Eli's report. If you have any questions about that, I guess you can contact Eli directly. All right, permission to address council. Anybody wish to? No one wishes to speak? All right.
I do.
Please.
As I spoke with you the other day, I have some concerns about the condition of the Dale Park.
I'm sorry, could you tell us your name, please?
Yes, I'm
Start.
sorry. Gary Lemon. I live at 7001 Wooster. And I have some concerns about the way Waldorf School is taking care or not taking care of the grounds around the school. I spoke with you the other day. I spoke with Waldorf School. I don't know if they really understand what the problem is. Because when I spoke to them, they didn't have a clue. Mm-hmm. And I understand that it's a nature school, nature-based school, mm-hmm. but they let the kids out in all kind of weather. There is no grass on any of the hillsides, and the kids just sit there. Mm. I guess, I know you don't want to fine them or do anything like that, but something really needs to be done, whether the area needs to be closed off. For example, Anderson Parks, when they have a soccer field or a ball field, that's damaged or bad weather, they have signs that say it's closed.
Sure.
So something, I've been here 25 years. My family's been here 58 years. It's the worst I've ever seen it. And it's visible driving by at 35 miles an hour on Wooster Pike.
Sure.
So I just wonder, what council or maintenance or, ordinance-wise can be done, because I don't really think they acknowledge that they have a problem.
As I mentioned when you came in to see me last week, I guess it was, this has been a topic that has come up in council over the years, on and off, for as long as I can almost remember. And I do know that at one point in time, it was suggested that we would form something called a local resident neighborhood group, of local residents that live over there. And it would be strictly volunteer, and they would sort of get together, form a group or a committee, and discuss amongst themselves issues that you're talking about here. And then, of course, they would meet with the administrator and a couple of the teachers or whoever at the school, so that basically, they could convey their concerns to them, and that you could engage in, a dialogue back and forth, so that they could be hearing directly from residents over there about concerns and the issues.
Right.
I have to be honest and say, I'm not really entirely certain. It was an idea that was floated.
Right.
It was talked about. It might have been in one of the committees, but anyway, it never really got off the ground, is what I guess I'm saying.
Right.
Would you be interested in possibly resurrecting something like that? Would you be interested in participating in something like that?
I would. But I just wonder, is there nothing in the ordinances as far as, or the regulations or the laws that would, in other words, if I formed a nonprofit and it was the Gary Lemon Crabby Old Man nonprofits, and I went in and abused a park, pick one, would the village, would council be okay with that? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's-
obviously, no. Obviously, the answer is no, but of
Right.
course, it's a question of degrees.
Right.
Just how bad would it be?
Right.
I do know that, I think you asked me this, they own the building, and they own a section
Right.
of land on either side of the building and then to the back.
Right.
There's also, that in part of that agreement, there was something written into that agreement that allows them the usage of, the parks and a broader area surrounding their building.
Right.
So they have a legal right to be occupying the space. But
Right.
of course, that doesn't give them a legal right to abuse it or to, leave it in the condition that you're
Overuse
describing.
it. Overuse it. It's just, most of it is just common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And-
Can I just ask you a question, just for those of us
Sure.
who weren't privy to that conversation? Would you mind just giving us one or two examples of exactly what you considered? Is it the grass? Are there more things than the grass? If you have a picture, that'd be great. I'd just like to understand better. Thank you.
I'd be happy to do anything that I could to help. That's an idea of what the area looks like. Most of the hillsides around the school that they have permission to use have no grass on them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they have no grass on them, the kids are out there, and I understand it's a nature-based school. The kids are on the hillsides just sitting there on a wet, muddy hillside. The hillsides don't have a chance.
No. And some of these sort of extra activities outside the school, of course, became somewhat, I guess, to some people's mind, excessive because of COVID. See, during COVID, they basically almost completely shut down the internal use of the building. And if you remember, they put the little white canopy, like tent-like things out there, and they're
I
going to have
saw
all
them.
classrooms
Yes,
outside.
I saw them.
And not be in, and
Right.
so on and so forth. So there was a little extra wear and tear during that period.
Right.
Although I do believe now they have moved back into the building.
Yes.
And I do know that an aspect of this is in Mr. York's committee, and it regards the hillside between the school building and the cemetery or the church. There's that hillside there that, is subject to the kids playing on it and
Right.
erosion and so on and so forth.
Right.
There was a planting plan that was developed for that hillside a number of years ago and this was pre-COVID. And in fact, it was rather detailed, and I think Mr. York might actually have some photographs or pictures of it. And I believe that we might actually be getting, back to that and engaging them in helping us plant the hillside and, maybe go 50-50 on the plants or something like that.
Right.
But,
This came up last week, and I've reached out to the school. I've not heard back yet. And our approach is to probably the mayor and I and anyone else who's interested to meet with them and, express our concerns and work as a partnership. I clearly think that we can come to an agreement. And I did get that planting plan from 2018 or 19, whenever it was. And my guess is that wouldn't change at all. To review that with them, put together a plan. If we end up, if we end up with some kind of an area advisory committee or whatever else it is, maybe we do that. But I think my guess is if we have an ongoing dialogue, I think we can come to an agreement and resolve this.
Hey, Bill, do you remember too, when you were head of Health and Rec, we also were starting to look at the drainage down the back of the hillside
yeah, the
too.
drainage down the back of the hill,
Another thing
that
we were
became
starting
an
to look
issue,
at.
yeah,
But
as
like you
well.
said, a lot of this got stopped, COVID put a,
Yeah.
sort of put a stop.
I know it's not, I'm not trying to make excuses, it's not much of an excuse, I
Sure.
mean, it sort of fell off the back burner for a variety of reasons.
Right.
I do think, though, that we are, I would sort of say with Mr. York, we are beginning to re-engage, and, starting with the hillside kind of a thing.
Right.
Personally, I always felt like the resident group committee kind of a thing was an excellent vehicle, because that gives the administrator and some of the teachers direct contact with the residents who actually live there, or anyone else for that matter. I mean, I know
Right.
there are other residents that share your
Sure.
concerns.
Sure.
So that you could engage and have a conversation. I mean, yes, as mayor or the chief, I mean, yeah, I can get on the phone and I can call up over there. In fact, the chief and I, every fall, basically meet with a couple of the teachers and the administrator to sort of go over certain protocols, for dropping off and picking up, what the kids are gonna do after school. They're gonna congregate, down at the promenade, those kind of issues.
Sure.
And I will say, and I think the chief will agree with this, I mean, they've been fairly receptive to that. But again, you go over, you have the conversation, we all have an agreement.
Right.
And then,
Life happens.
yeah.
We just need to take action. I mean, school's gonna be out, so if we're gonna replant or do anything, May's the time to do it. So, once school's out, so that's our plan.
Right.
I'm frankly a little disappointed that they've not responded. They should have by now. So we'll reach out again and we'll engage them.
Well,
And
if
I
there's
appreciate you bringing it
If
up.
there's something I can do, to work with them, I'd be glad to do it.
Okay,
So-
okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. These photos?
Gary?
Could I have the envelope
Oh, sure.
so they don't get sticky?
Got the photos. Sure, ma'am, please.
I'm Mariemont Schmidt. I live at 3895 Oak Street. And I totally agree with Gary. I am also here to basically try to figure out what can be done to work together with the Waldorf School to eliminate, first of all, the damage that they have been doing to the park, okay? Perhaps if they decided to have the classes outside, and I know with COVID, I mean, that may have been an excuse why they did this. There's a lot of damage to it. Now, if they decide to have classes day in and day out every year, they should use their own property around, okay? And time it, maybe, from first grade to eighth grade throughout the day, okay? Maybe that would be a solution. And maybe just use the park for playground,
Sure.
Also, if they do damage to the park, they should be responsible for fixing it. Okay, we shouldn't have to use our tax dollars
Sure.
to fix it. Okay, those are some things that I think make just common sense to me.
Sure.
I have also some problem with the traffic. Twice a day, it's bumper-to-bumper traffic that comes through. If they would basically time the arrival from certain grades to certain grades at different times, 15 minutes apart or something else, I think it would help. Somehow, I feel, since I live in a historic district and I see a whole lot of the neighbors have put in a lot of effort to upgrade the properties and keep it up, we want to keep it in good shape, and we don't want anything to distract from the value of the properties.
Sure.
That's my opinion here. Now, that concerns the school, and I have another problem, and that is the trash collection at the apartments. At the 3900 block, behind, there is like 25 or 30, I don't know how many trash cans that totally every time overflow.
Okay, ma'am, on what street are you saying?
That's on Oak Street.
On Oak?
Yeah, 3909, 3907, you know, the corner of Chestnut and Oak Street.
Oh, no, okay, I know what you mean, sure. Behind the buildings is what you're talking about?
Behind the
buildings,
buildings, and they overflow, and I have complained about that before. It should be, either we need a dumpster there. I know the space is limited, so maybe a smaller dumpster and maybe having it emptied twice a week instead of just once a week.
Okay.
Might help.
Okay.
But really and truly, it looks like it's terrible.
Okay.
They overflow all the time,
Okay.
so if that could be taken care of,
Okay.
I would appreciate that. I think that would be a big plus for the neighborhood. Okay,
Well, I promise you I'll look into it.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? All right, any question regarding the bills before we have a motion to pay the bills?
Yeah, real quick. Chief, you're still doing the door cups? Are you doing advise those, the door cups?
Who does what?
Door cups?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they, because they're on the smaller size. When we got to Milford, have we increased the size? I didn't know if we did or not.
We did, yeah. Mr. York asked for those to be increased from the 12 ounce to the 16 ounce.
Yeah.
And that's what we have now, it's
Okay.
16.
Well, we
So
we
you
have both
you
sizes
they
now.
came,
Oh,
we
have
have.
both sides. Yeah, oh, yeah, they're here.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. I know we talked about it. I just didn't know if they got to you or not, so thank you.
Super size.
All right, everybody else, any other questions regarding the bills? Bills look good? All right, motion to pay the bills, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Excuse me, Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we will pay the bills.
Ready for this?
Ready, Mayor?
Yes.
All right, from the Rules and Laws Committee. The Rules and Laws Committee met on March 7th, 2022 at 4:30 PM to discuss the following: the Employee Manual Update Process, Tree Advisory Board recommended changes to Ordinance Number O-20-21, Village of Mariemont Fencing Ordinances, Chapter 152 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances, rental dwellings and units, and the status of short-term rentals in areas not zoned for commercial use. Present were village employees John Schippenberg, Chuck Barlow, and Joni Van Pelt, Mayor Brown, and committee chairperson Susan Brown Knight, committee member Kelly Rankin, and committee member Marcy Lewis. The employee manual updating process requires no action from council at this time, as department heads will begin the process of making recommended updates starting the first week of May. The committee recommends that council accept the recommendations of the tree board to update ordinance number O-20-21, section 57.06BI, replacing 9-person Village of Mariemont Tree Advisory Board with 14-person Village of Mariemont Tree Advisory Board. This change is being recommended to provide consistency throughout the document. The committee reviewed the following fencing ordinances: 151.101 through 151.106, and has the following recommendations. A, fence must be defined within the ordinances, and decorative fences should be included in the definition of fence. B, materials of construction should include I, powdered coated aluminum. C, chain link fences should not be permitted to line standard fences. D, ensure that all ordinances related to fences are consistent on current ordinances on chain link fences and pending ordinances related to electric/invisible fencing. The committee recommends that Ed McTighe work with zoning officer Rod Holloway to identify all areas of inconsistency within the aforementioned ordinances. E, update section 151.102B to ensure that residents can put up a fence taller than 4 feet in a side yard / a privacy fence that abuts the neighbor. Please note that the language related to the front yard fences does not change and will continue to read that they shall be no more than 4 feet in height and at least 50% open. And F, clarify 151.047, which states no setback is required for fencing in any yard. Currently, practice is that setbacks are required for fences 6 feet or higher. The committee reviewed the provisions of Chapter 152 of the Mariemont Code and recommends to the village to amend Section 152 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances and update the timing of permit validity, inspection, and permit response times and fees. Respectively, the committee recommends that the solicitor prepare the necessary legislation once recommendation is adopted. Respectively submitted and signed by Susan Brown Knight, Chairperson, Kelly Rankin, and Marcy Lewis.
Good job, Tony.
That's just a warm-up.
That's just the warm-up.
Yeah, they get longer from here. All right, you've heard the report. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the report?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion about this? Susan did a fairly comprehensive, good job on this. Susan, you have any comments you want to make?
Not at this time.
Not at this time? Any questions? No?
No, I think it looks great.
Okay. All right, then on roll call. Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we'll accept that report.
And Susan, if I can, so we'll leave the policy handbook on, because that's still ongoing, correct? Okay, is there any of these that you want to come off? Feel? It seems to kind of be ongoing.
The rental unit inspection should come off.
Okay. Okay.
The third reading is, I believe, coming up, the ordinance amending section 15104. That can probably come off too.
Okay. Thank you.
We're getting there.
When's next time?
From Rob, the pumper truck.
Oh, okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, from the Finance Committee regarding mini pumper truck requests. The Finance Committee met on Monday, March 7th, 2022 at 3:00 p.m. to discuss the request from the Fire Department to purchase a mini pumper truck. Present at the meeting were Finance Committee members Rob Bartlett, Kelly Rankin, and Marcy Lewis, Assistant Fire Chief Dan Copeland, and Mayor Bill Brown. Assistant Chief Copeland shared in the February 20th council meeting that they found a mini pumper truck that would cost approximately $250,000 and would be available this summer. After much discussion, the Finance Committee agreed that this was likely a good thing to do, with the primary benefit being to extend the life of the ladder truck. There is also a belief that the mini pumper could increase our revenue by being able to make EMS runs when our ambulance is already out on a call. However, our previous Assistant Fire Chief told us we could similarly increase our revenue by keeping 2 ambulances, but our revenue actually went down versus when he had just 1 ambulance. The real issue, though, is this was not included in the original Permanent Improvement Fund submission, and as such, there isn't enough money in the Permanent Improvement Fund to pay for this. Also, the village is already likely facing a deficit in 2022, and purchasing the mini pumper would increase the deficit. The following are the key points. 1, the Permanent Improvement Fund budget was approved in December by council, already projected overspending of roughly $63,000. Since then, the cost of the police chief's car has come in at $15,500 versus the previous placeholder of $45,000. Also, we will be transferring $125,000 for the sale of the old pumper truck and $31,500 for the sale of the extra ambulance into the Permanent Improvement Fund. So the Permanent Improvement Fund now stands at a surplus of $123,000, which is the negative 63 plus 30 plus 125 plus 31. Still $127,000 short of the $250,000 needed to purchase the mini pumper truck. Number 2, the original overall 2022 budget for the village showed a $189,000 deficit. In mid-February, Mr. Bartlett and Mr. Barney updated the projected revenue and spending for 2022. Their last estimate is the deficit will be roughly $69,000. This includes the $5 thousand from selling the ambulance, but not the purchase of the mini pumper. If we buy the mini pumper without any reductions elsewhere, our deficit will grow. Number 3, the village currently has roughly $485,000 in outstanding loans. We are spending approximately $155,000 a year servicing this debt. The 2 largest payments are $100,000 a year for the municipal building loan and $51,000 a year for the new ambulance that was bought in 2019. The final payments for both of these loans will occur in 2024. The other 2 loans are street-related. Their total principal is approximately $84,000, and we pay just over $4,000 a year. One loan will be paid off in 2037, the other one in 2039. The Finance Committee sees 5 alternatives for council to consider. Number 1, use the $156,000 from selling the pumper truck and the ambulance and borrow the remaining $127,000. Recall, after the $156,000 was added, the permanent improvement fund balance was $123,000, so still $127,000 short of the $250,000. Current interest rates are 2.93% over 4 years, but are projected to increase if spending is not cut elsewhere. Then if we do this, our deficit in 2022 will increase by $156,000. The first loan payment will be due in March 2023. Our total loan amount will be reduced to $250,000 by that time, but the permanent improvement fund will be further constrained in 2023 and 2024 from having to service the additional debt. Number 2, use the $156,000 from selling the equipment and provide a short-term loan from the general fund of $127,000. There is no interest expense, but our deficit in 2022 will now increase by the full $250,000. And number 3, use the $156,000 from selling the equipment and revisit the permanent improvement fund budget, cutting $127,000 of spending that had previously been approved. There would be no interest expense, but our budget deficit would increase by $156,000. Permanent improvement spending could also be cut in number 1 and number 2 above to reduce the loan amount. The Finance Committee recommends revisiting what was approved back in December to see if anything has changed and should be removed or modified. Number 4, delay the purchase of the mini pumper until 2023 or 2024. The $156,000 from selling the equipment could be carried forward, and the remaining spending could then be built into the budget, allowing council to minimize the deficit. However, there is a strong possibility that the cost of the mini pumper could increase. There is also the possibility that a used mini pumper could become available, although not as likely. And number 5, don't purchase a mini pumper truck at all. The wear and tear on the ladder truck would continue. It was purchased in 2012, so it is 10 years old at this year. 10 years old this year. Note, the question was also raised in a meeting if some of the $156,000 should be used to address the facility issues that were raised in the Kramer report to create a safer work environment for our firefighters. These facility issues were added to the committee of the whole agenda. If we are not going to address these facility issues now, when we have this cash, then should those facility issues be removed from the committee of the whole agenda? Since all of council needs to make the final decision, the Finance Committee thought it would be appropriate to discuss these points during the March 14th council meeting and then hold a vote on how to proceed. Respectively submitted. And Rob, you got the signed copies? Okay.
It's right here.
Oh, you got it. Okay. By Rob Bartlett, Chair, Marcia Lewis, and Kelly Rankin. It's coming.
You got it? All right, you've heard.
A lot of numbers.
You've heard the report, as brief as it was. Do we have a motion and a second to accept the report?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so the discussion about this, Rob has gone into great length and detail here to outline, a number of things. I think some of this, though, needs to be sort of looked at. Number 1, some of the deficit projections and things are, in fact, just projections. And Tony and I met yesterday afternoon, and things are not quite as dire as the numbers that Rob is using here. As to the loan amount, the $485,000 outstanding loans that we currently have, yes, that is true when he wrote this report. However, by the time that we would take possession of this pumper, I believe that would be down to something like $250,000.
Yeah, that's in the notes. It's in the
notes.
report here.
Okay, and it's gonna.
Can you clear that up? When would we
It'll roll
take
off.
possession? And see, because I was under the impression this was all happening in 2023 anyway.
It would.
Payment and everything.
We would
Yeah.
take possession this year.
We would still take, okay.
Right. We wouldn't start to pay for it, though, if I'm correct, until next year.
You'd have to put the down payment though, right? Don't you have to?
Yeah, there would be a.
Yeah, the loan doesn't
If
start
we
to get
loan,
paid
if
till
we get-
next
okay.
year.
If we took a loan.
If we took a, okay.
Right, yeah.
Mini-year.
And then, obviously, one of the advantages of taking a loan, I mean, another way of looking at this, if you, I don't know whether, well, actually, I guess we all have a copy of the latest permanent improvement budget on the back.
This is not the latest, this is the original. This is the one that was approved.
Well, it was one that was approved.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just, that's what we
Change.
said we wanted to go through that, to see if there's any changes.
It's currently showing a deficit of 62,000, 8,000, let's just round it to 63,000. That is, of course, a projected deficit. It depends heavily on whether or not, obviously, out of these allocations that we've made here, not all of that money might be spent, so we don't know really what that deficit might be. And we apparently, even if, let's say we spend every nickel that was allocated, we basically agreed that we would cover that deficit out of the ARPA funds. A way, though, to sort of look at this, if you're happy with that deficit, basically, I think we should look at this as sort of a standalone transaction. I mean, yes, it would go through this, but the money that we raised from selling the pumper, the ambulance, and the money that Chief saved on the car is roughly $180,000 by rounding. That would leave a balance due of approximately $70,000 that we would owe on the pumper, which we could easily borrow. That would not significantly add to our debt load, and to service that debt, in fact, would only, by my calculation, would be around, I don't know, $18,000 or $19,000 a year.
Bill, that number's not right. Because there's cash, it's what cash is available within the permanent improvement fund. So you use some of those numbers, that was already built in. We've already, depending if we cut anything else.
Yeah,
You know,
if we-
chief stuff and moving the sale money was in there.
No.
So that put us at a positive of 123.
Right.
Right.
But
So if there's
we're
other
saving
things we
the
can cut.
30 on
That was
Chief's
already
part.
in that number.
I know it was in that number, I'm allowing for that.
Right. So, but you just quoted that we'd only have to borrow 70-something thousand. That's not right. It's 127,000 we have to borrow. If we don't make any other cuts, if we don't make any other cuts in the permanent
If we don't make
improvement
any other, if we
It's
don't make any other cuts, yeah.
$127,000.
It seems to me, though, that we're somehow double counting, or we're
fund.
not counting the
Ask Tony,
Chief's
ask
money.
Tony.
Yeah, Rob's right, so, because we're already at a deficit,
Right.
and you add 250, then you subtract out the fire truck and the ambulance, we're right there.
Yeah.
So the numbers are all right there, except, again, unless we want to go back and
And-
make some other cuts in some of the stuff, and that would help
There-
free up some
right,
other
right.
dollars.
There could be other cuts on some of these, on some of these allocations.
Sure,
So,
sure. I
like
mean, one of the
said-
projects is yours about the building, so.
Exactly, yeah, and I would be willing to make a cut there.
So again, we're 127 short from a cash standpoint.
Right.
Cut 127 to not have to borrow anything.
To not to borrow anything.
Right, right.
But another way to cut into that deficit would be to borrow.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure. I'm not a fan of the borrowing. I'm not a fan of adding to more of the
Yeah.
debt that we already have. But that's just, that's my opinion. It's not.
May I ask another question that's non-financial? I'm just concerned. Chief Copeland, would you talk about the Kramer report and a safer working environment for our firefighters? What is that?
Yeah, no, that's in your committee. That's in the
Yeah, so here,
That's not-
well, here, I made a copy of
My
what was.
building's fine
Yeah.
right now.
I made a copy of what was in the Kramer report, of the different things, and this was done by Tim Wiley, who, could you just take one and pass it?
Oh.
Just take one and pass it. So this is done by Tim Wiley, a resident who who builds, Randy, he builds?
He designs.
He designs fire buildings, so, fire truck buildings. So this is what's in the official report, this is Tim's report. And it listed several things that, I don't know, when the report was submitted, I asked the question, like, gee, some of these seems sort of important to address.
But nobody's came.
Pardon me, I'm sorry?
Nobody came.
Right.
Nobody from this council as a whole.
But I
Well,
just,
it's in the committee of the whole. It got put in committee of the whole, and Marcy's chair of that now. So Marcy's got control of that. And so I think it's important to talk about these things and say, okay, are these important or not? If they're not, let's take them out of committee of the whole. If they are important, then we
my
should.
question would be to Chief Hines and Chief Copeland. I mean, what is your priority as far as the utmost safety for the,
Yeah, I'd like to respond. I'd like to respond to that. Obviously, as we know, we had some issues with the building, with the flooding and mold issues. Those have been taken care of, okay? And so while, yes, everybody agrees in time, we need to do something with the building as a whole, okay? But my opinion is that I think that my priority is spending money on equipment that helps take care of our residents before we worry about the niceties for us here inside the building. That's my, the priority that I have is that we have the equipment that it takes to service our people before we worry about what's, you know, a nicety for us.
Because just to be clear, the stuff that Tim pointed out, they don't seem more, because I think you're right about the niceties about the living conditions, but this is like exhaust systems, and it says here our storm shelter is not up to code. And so it just, when I read this, that's why I asked the question when the report was submitted. It's like, wow, these things, some of these things seem pretty important that we ought to address. And that's when it got put into the committee of the whole, is people said, yes, we need to fix some of these things. And because it's not, again, I read this and I thought it wasn't just, hey, we've got to make better living conditions. It's like I mean, the words he used here is that some of this stuff could be harmful to the firefighters. And one of these, he says some of these conditions could be harmful to the firefighters, which would worry me. I mean, I would not want to have the firefighters be at risk of any way for this stuff.
I wouldn't want that at all.
And
You want to respond?
Yeah, right now,
Steve?
we've gone to, thanks to California and the laws that we have and things that have been going on throughout the nation, we have went to clean diesel. We don't leave our trucks sitting in the bay idling and running, they go outside. But even if they do, they produce NCO2, which is water. It's a form of water. That's why we pay extra for dip fuel and do those things. As far as the living conditions, they're not the greatest, but nobody's complaining.
right.
The storm sewer stuff, that's on this as a whole. I don't dig ditches. I don't know what you need. That's why I say I don't know what you need as a building. I've seen Tim and talk about it too, but I'm gonna reference back to, we had Bill Kramer come in here on November 22nd of last year because this council wanted to hear cost reductions and how we could do some savings. That's what I was tasked with. So, yeah, there's a whole report. We can pull those things as we need them. But I was tasked with looking at what we could do to reduce some of the cost and upcoming costs that we had. That's what I was asked to do. And I've done that. And I've come down and where it is, and the first thing off of the very first day that he talked, the very first number one was our stock of equipment and what we could be using. And he went into a long conversation about that, and he stated down here, Chief Copeland wants to combine 3 vehicles into one, costing about 1/3 of what a new full-size pumper would cost. Because during these times, when we were going through our budget, it was brought back to our times, multiple times, that we were getting ready to have to spend $500,000 for a new engine. And if we didn't replace it then, in 2 years, it was gonna be $750,000. So we eliminated that. And that's how we got to where we are today. The reason it was brought to you guys as that as a whole, for the 4 months, there was a group of appointed firefighters and paramedics that looked at financial cost, that looked at what we need as a unit that could cover everything in the city, or the village, I'm sorry. And that's where this recommendation came from. I know it wasn't in the permanent improvements fund, but I at least got it pushed back for financing if we decide to go that route until 2023.
Could you share, what was your thought behind it not being in the permanent improvement fund?
Because right now, I can't tell you if I'm gonna get this truck. I won't know.
So and this is me being new.
Okay,
So
that's
just
fine.
please be patient with me. I'm not clear of the process. What was why is it not in the permanent, why is this particular truck not in the permanent improvement?
Every time we sold a piece of apparatus, it was brought to the attention that we were gonna have to replace it.
But then, so what was the thought behind not putting it, if we knew we were, why wasn't it in the budget?
Because I still don't know if I can get this truck today.
So is this truck, and maybe it's a timing thing, why isn't this truck in the budget?
Because right now, if we order the truck and put it back that you asked me to do, it looks, we're 18 to 17 months out from even it going online to be built. This truck was available at the time that we started this conversation. It's $50,000 cheaper. Right now, we can't find half the materials that we need to build the stuff that we need to have. We have long lead times. So the 17.5 that you guys put out for our gear this year, I'm not getting quoted that till, we won't even get that. We'll be fitted next month, won't get it till October or December. It's just
So, but,
supply chain.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just,
Maybe the question is, why wasn't this submitted as a request for the permanent improvement budget for this year?
Because at the time, I still didn't have it back from my committee. Once it came back from the group of the firefighters and paramedics, like, hey, we found one, we're moving ahead, we think this is something worth bringing up and seeing where we can go with that, that's where it spurred off to. And I was just trying to get ahead of some of the interest rates, because that raises tomorrow. And just trying to get ahead of some of that. And then once I seen the $50,000 difference between that truck and the truck that we did, that's how we got to where we were. I wasn't planning on asking for this right off the bat. But
it's
I
just
think
sort of
we
an opportunity that arose that was a better financial option than some other ones,
Yeah, that
and still allowed us to push any debt to 2023.
That, and, you know, I want to be clear too that, you know, we sold the old pumper truck after Mr. Kramer had said, you know, this mini pumper would be a great option for us. I thought there was a possibility that we were going to be down to one firefighting piece of apparatus, I would have never gotten rid of the pumper truck, because we need two pieces of apparatus. And right now, we're in limbo. We've got the ladder truck, and that's the only firefighting piece of apparatus we have. You know, like Chief Copeland said, I think this just come available that we could get this truck that's on the line now and save a lot of money versus
so
waiting and putting it in next year's budget.
okay, so originally the plan was, and again, I wasn't part of all of this, so I'm just trying to get clarity. Originally, the plan was, so we need two apparati, is that the plural?
Apparatus.
Apparatuses. But we
Two fire
got-
trucks.
Right. What Marcy said, Dr. Lewis said. So but we were planning on having like 18 to 24 months with just one. That was in the plan when we sold the first truck. Because that sounds like we weren't planning on getting the truck until next year. We had already sold it, so we were thinking we could operate 18 to 24 months without two apparatuses. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think where I got scared, here's a letter from the company that we designed our truck from. Just by month, they raised it 8%, just off of a month. Just trying to get
Okay.
ahead
So,
of some
but
of the cost raising.
I'm just trying to segment the thought process. So can we operate so we can operate safely with one vehicle, but you prefer to have two, because we were planning on operating with one vehicle for 18 to 24 months.
Combining 3 vehicles into one.
Well, I would say a better way to, is not ideal circumstances, because you're combining 3 vehicles into one. There are some safety concerns. Would you want to talk about this?
There's some immediate safety benefits that we pick up by having the smaller truck, correct? I mean, it gets us into the South 80, it gets us into the lanes in a much more maneuverable
And it
way.
does.
Yeah, it's
So
got
today,
greater
your ladder truck
accessibility.
was worked on today.
Yeah.
I was gonna have to ride up to Woodlawn and borrow a fire truck.
Okay, that's,
Okay, where we will not have to do that.
Yeah.
However, this piece isn't just sitting down at his barn like the other truck was.
Okay.
This truck is taking the place of the staff car that we have now, the ambulance, and a fire engine all in one.
right.
And then in addition, would you speak to the potential for increased billing?
Yes,
And also,
so-
you know, he references Chief Feitner, but I think you had a subsequent conversation.
Yes, well, it's right here. So right now, how the billing goes on in the world is we produce a run
Yeah.
on our tablet, it goes off, and MedAccount goes through our accounts, and they pick and choose, and they pull what we can bill.
Yeah,
What we're gonna do is, what we haven't been doing, is have a tablet on the scene with the fire truck that first responds, starting the care, getting the name, getting the address, doing the care to that, and then we'll send that off and get billing back for that. So I hope that clarifies a little bit. I talked to them today.
Is that in addition to billing that we would get then when
Yes.
the ambulance shows up?
Yes.
Well, because the ambulance is following behind then?
Yes, so
You can-
sometimes,
You can
let's
bill
say-
twice for the same
Well, if they're at 7010
person?
Rowan Hill and somebody says they got trouble breathing, we go up there, we check them out. They're up there for 10, 15 minutes and another run breaks out for that, but they don't transport, we now can come back to that. We will also be able
I
to
just don't
be on the
understand.
scene
It's
and
so
give our
bad.
ALS drugs. So it's called a first response
Yeah,
billing,
Yeah.
and we're not getting that right now.
right. But that's where, and I know we talked about this,
Yeah.
I struggle because if an ambulance is available, we normally send the ambulance on an
Absolutely.
EMS run, and that was, so I'm trying to understand how the incremental part plays out with this, because if the ambulance is trailing behind us or I'm assuming you can only bill the patient once for.
For now, but we're looking ahead. This is a purchase that's going to take us ahead for 10 years. We're working with with Medicaid right now to start billing for our services differently. And that's where we're starting to look at that. Your village fire department is working with the US government right now. So when you go and visit with a doctor and then you have to go see a specialist, do you not pay the first doctor that you see? But then you go and see a specialist and then you pay that doctor. Well, we're all on the scene. Right now, they give us a group cost for everybody that comes down. That's around $1,100 to $1,400. What they're gonna start doing is billing for how many paramedics are on the scene, how many EMTs are on the scene. That is on the table right now. Where our cost would be is if the second run breaks out, and let's say Anderson has to come in and do a transport for us, we will now get some billing money because we're gonna show that we were on the scene giving care, and then we transferred them over there for transport to the hospital. And we're missing that.
So how often do you think that happens? I mean, that we have something like that?
Not a lot, but we're getting busier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
I
because
don't
to be
get
to be a
I listened.
$20,000 increase, that would have to happen 30% of the time. And it's like, wow, that seems like a lot.
It
Seems like
does,
a lot
it
to me.
does. But like we said, we're projecting out and looking ahead for where we're heading. Last year at this time, we were last year was the busiest year that this fire department ever had in its thing. And we were at 84 runs last year at this time. Right now, we're at 114 at the same time this year. You know, there's some different things. I think one of the bigger things for this truck in the Kramer report, I've been really worried about South 80. I'm worried about some of our parks, worried about some of the response areas that we can get in. This is a lighter weight. It's a pickup truck trying to get into a place where I'm trying to take a full-size, fully loaded truck now. And just wear and tear as time goes on. We had maintenance in today. They did some maintenance on the ladder truck today, and we got a good report back from that. But I think there's some cost savings, and that was the big thing, cost reductions from what I was tasked with looking at. So
Because if we have the lighter truck and we get an EMS run, of course, then the lighter truck, those two trucks run, and the heavy truck stays here.
Yes.
Saving, wear and tear on that big truck, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
actually, and gas.
And fuel.
Yep,
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause who'd imagine we'd be paying what we are now?
Is the mini pumper diesel or gas?
It's gonna be diesel.
Oh, it's gonna be.
It's gonna be diesel. The nice part of adding that same one, we already have that front end downstairs, so we're saving money. And filters, when we go to do our oil changes, they're all interchangeable between the two trucks,
So could you clarify, does a mini pumper have ability to transport?
It does not. It'll be-
Okay, but it does have ability to take EMS equipment and service in that capacity, and that's where the additional billing comes in.
So
Gotcha.
all the ALS stuff that came off of the ambulance is now going to go into that truck. So your cardiac monitors, your cardiac drugs, your pain medications, everything right now is gonna be able to be in that truck. Where we don't right now, because it has to be under lock and key, it's already designed into it to be under lock and key, and we'll be able to bring those stuff to you in case the ambulance is out and we're waiting for them to come back, or they're on their way back from Jewish Kenwood. We're already on the scene and trying to do
And
that.
do you currently carry those on the big truck now?
We do not. We
Okay.
just put them on to the staff car that we weren't gonna fix, but we came across a good deal and we got it fixed. So we've already started this now. I just have to get a EMS billing number for the vehicle that we have, depending on what that is.
Oh, this is the one that you got the really good deal on?
On the motor,
On the
yeah,
engine?
yeah, because we sat there for months, so. Go ahead, Chief.
One of the old police vehicles.
Yeah,
So you can actually, we can bill on that though?
we're getting ready to. I'm doing the Ohio paperwork right now as we speak.
So would the mini pumper eliminate the need for that staff car?
Yes,
So that could be an additional asset that we could sell?
yes.
Okay. I'm just asking.
So is the billing, when you talk about our increased ability to get billing, is the way the government does the billing changing? That's
Yeah.
the key thing for this year?
We're working with them hand in hand. We're one of 124 fire departments in the nation. The other one's LA, Chicago, the way
Okay.
they're looking at it.
I just wanted to
And then they're
clarify what
looking
the
at it from our
difference
end.
was,
So,
what changed.
yeah, so what we're missing out now, they'll traditionally, right now, pay for us to first respond in that fire truck and start care on you until an ambulance comes. We're not getting that right now, so.
Right, but the truck or whatever, the other truck that you've got the great deal on the engine, that can go out there and you can start treating people and you have enough equipment on there that you can go ahead and
We
build?
just now put it in there a
Oh,
month
wow.
ago.
Okay, so it seems like now you've created that capability. Are we gonna keep that thing though? Because it seems like that's,
It's back to you. You do what you want, sell it, do whatever you want.
because, well, right, well, but we can get that extra billing with that truck then right now that we have. Is what I hear.
But I don't have fire.
But you don't have the fire protection.
You're right. I agree. But see, this goes back to when the other fire truck was sold, there was a note that came out to council that said that both Chief Hines and Assistant Fire Chief Copeland have agreed the engine truck is no longer a necessary asset for the department. And so, because it'd been sitting down there in John's place for 2 years, just
Because
sitting
it
on
won't fit in here.
Right,
That's the
right.
thing. I mean, and the difference between that truck and this truck, Mr. Bartlett, would be if we went out on a fire scene with that truck at the maintenance department, we would have to send somebody to the maintenance department, and if they weren't open, get it unlocked, bring it out. It was a time-consuming thing, where this truck would be here in the house.
Well, because we got rid of the ambulance though, too.
Yeah, and it would
It would not
go,
have
it
space.
would go out on, say we had a mulch fire. That mini pumper would go out and that big truck would probably stay in the house, is that right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, just replacing tires on that ladder truck is very, very expensive. And I didn't realize with the weight of that truck, every time that truck turns, those tires it just rips those tires up. So the more times we can leave that truck here in this house, without taking it out on a huge fire, the better off we're gonna be as far as what it costs us to maintain that.
Right. And again,
Although we've gotta have it, I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta have the ladder.
And just to be clear, I'm for buying this thing. The thing to me is, it's the timing issue that, because we don't have enough cash, I don't think it's the right. So I do think we ought to be getting this piece of equipment. It's just, for me, it's a timing thing because of our financial situation. And so trying to be more,
It's
managing the
gonna
budget.
cost us a lot more money to wait.
Well, but well, maybe not, We don't know, because,
So-
because you could maybe buy it used. Used prices have gone down month over month.
Well,
Actually, so, and I know Dan tried to find one, and I appreciate the efforts that he went to, and it went quickly. But if we wait till 2023, we might be able to find something by then, right? We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah. But we do know that what we have right now is what we want. And I know the finance is a concern of yours. But I mean, essentially, like I said, the way around that is to simply borrow a little money on this. It just does not put us in that
Can I
bad of
ask-
a situation.
So I have a couple questions. I guess the first is, I'm still a little bit, I apologize, hung up on any Mariemont employee safety, and that's not addressed. And so I don't know what the process is. Again, I'm a couple months into this. But when I read these items, I'm very, very concerned. So I want to be very, very clear that firefighter safety is, to me, the top priority, and that our employee safety is the top priority. So,
There's safety when you're in-house, but there's safety in the field. It also has to be considered by the quality of your
right.
equipment.
Well,
So there's
certainly,
two things.
and that is, I'll touch on that too. But I want to just be very clear there that we haven't acted on it. I don't know what the steps are to act on it. And I am willing to support whatever steps are needed to ensure that either this is not correct or this is taken care of. And there are a lot of layers to that. That's just, in my opinion, a priority in terms of good governance. The challenge, I want to say, so it sounds like we were planning. Safety is not, in my mind, it's off the table as a conversation. We were planning as an entity in the village to not have this truck this year. That was that was given as from the advice, Chief Hines, from you and Chief Copeland, that is, so safety, you guys, I have no doubt. Safety is your number one priority. It always has been. It's impeccable. You would never have recommended, if you were planning, if you thought we needed it this year, you would have recommended it this year in terms of safety. So I want to say that I have total faith in both of your guys' strategy in that space and total buy-in. So I know if we had to have it, you would have put it in the budget. For me, the question is, and it's a big one, what, 2 months in, 3 months in, 2 months in, is governance. When you $250,000 not in the budget, it's not, it's governance. If it was safety, it'd be a totally different issue for me. That's highest priority. But governance, a $250,000 expense that is not budgeted is not, I can't do that when I run my business, right? I'm not going to come in and have a 200, because you just don't do that. And so to me, that's what's making me very nervous. And I want to be very clear again. I have total faith in both of you. I don't think safety is the issue, because if it was, you guys would have been in here in an instant, because it has been the first priority. It's top for everything. So the question is, one, if it is, I mean, I don't know if we, so that is the concern for me, is the process more than anything, is getting this thing in the budget and going through a vetting process versus feeling like I have to vote on $250,000, which is, what, is 70% of a budget, with almost no process. So I just want to flag that as a major concern. That might not be, with more experience around the table, that might not be the concern. But to challenge that if this is something needed, we get that in the budget and that we go through a process. But, and that we prioritize these recommendations around safety, and that is we can't tolerate anything that compromises our firefighter safety. So those would be the two things I'm concerned about, and I would turn it over to you to speak to both of those.
I think the thing that we have to remember is, as a council, that before your 2 months,
Yeah.
they didn't want to know about that. They wanted to know about this and had their guy come in about cost reduction. That's what they had him come in and speak about, and
Yeah.
I was tasked with the cost reduction.
Okay. Dan, can you clarify who that person is? You mean
Bill
Kramer?
Kramer.
Bill Kramer.
You had Bill
Okay.
Kramer in, you had him in this room to talk to you about all this stuff and plan, but we wanted to know about cost reductions.
Yeah.
This is the cost reduction.
Okay.
That's gonna save you, as your term, as you're voted in right now, that's gonna save you as time goes on. The money that he's talking about is not until 2023. The stuff that I brought in, those are monies that, yes, it was technically the village's, but we brought it and sold the apparatus with the
Right.
intention of purchasing this truck. Since the day that I stood up and brought this, the first number was 180. Then it went to 220. Now it's at 306 or 250. So they're all over the place right now. We're in an economic time that I was just trying to get us out ahead of, guys. This
Okay.
isn't a spur of the moment. Sometimes we have to pull our pants up and go around. Right now, you have one fire truck. The fire chief told me to go ahead and sell it because we thought we were replacing another fire truck with the money that we had. I have reduced the cost because you're not paying for the maintenance on that. You're not paying for the insurance. You're not paying for the fuel. Then we got rid of the ambulance that you're not paying the insurance on. You're not paying that. The first day that we had it, as my first day as the fire chief, I spent $2,600 on that truck that we didn't even use a day after that. And that's when my time started looking at all that and projecting out. I came to you without this on the list because there's always been a time, this actually was on the list. We moved it from 2022 to 2024 in the 10-year improvement, in my 10-year report that came out. So it's right over here if you need it.
That was replacing the pumper.
Yes.
No.
There
So
is
you
a-
moved it to 2024.
You had the
Just
10-year
replacing the pumper that we
plan.
sold.
Is this
So
what you're
if we,
looking for?
what he put in his 10-year budget was to replace the pumper that we sold.
Right.
It would have been about $500,000.
That was in
2024.
2027 was when it was originally in, and it's not in this budget that got submitted. Let's deal with facts, okay? That's what was, the original budget was in 2027, And the line is still here, but there's no dollars here because it says engine was sold. So this is when it got removed.
This
It
was
used to
after
be-
it got removed. It was in there before, though, right?
It was in there in last year's budget. This is what was submitted this year to Tony.
Okay.
So I agree with you, Chief. It was in last year's
It
budget.
was in
For
there.
a 2027
Right,
replacement.
and it
In the
was going
budget that I
to-
got hammered on,
So,
that was in that budget, because you used that number against me, Rob. You used that number,
it's,
and projected that number out, and used that, and now that we've come to you with a cost savings, I feel like, oh, here where we're at. Everybody here that was here before Ms. Brown Knight knew that this was coming. This was something that we were talking about.
but to her point that, and again, Assistant Chief Copeland, I agree with the need for this equipment. The thing was, it didn't get built in, and so right now, it is creating can create a large deficit for us.
So what
'Cause it
about the
wasn't
money
built
that we
into
brought
this.
in, though?
Pardon me, I'm sorry?
What about, you're using the money that
Right,
against?
right. But it's a deficit. I mean, look at the fiscal officer. It will create a deficit because this was not built into the budget.
What if I put it in 2023?
Pardon me?
What if I put it in 2023?
And that's where we can go ahead and build it into the budget. And I agree.
And that's what I've done. If
No,
you
no,
decide
no,
to take out a loan.
the down payment for it has to come out this year, right? When you buy it.
I don't know yet. You haven't let me sign the paperwork.
Well, then tell us.
Why am I, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's this finance committee here that I've given you the bank number to. That if we were serious about this, instead of having a guy that comes in 30 hours a week trying to find all these facts for you, these are facts that you guys could have brought back up if we're talking about financials. Because we love to talk and play numbers and move these numbers around. I love doing it too. But I gave you the lady that was gonna give you the money.
Yeah, and.
Did anybody contact her?
No, I trusted you. I trusted you to do it.
And I
So-
gave you all the information
Right.
plus the person to talk to.
And it says here, there's a down payment. A down payment means we need to pay it this year, I'm assuming, to take the vehicle.
That's money that wouldn't have been there if I left all that equipment here off the.
And again, Dan,
cost.
I totally agree with setting aside the money that you guys have raised for that.
I get it, but I
Let's
feel
use it
like
for
all
that.
my conversations are always directed right towards you. I want to talk to the rest of the committee.
Sure.
Guys,
Let's
we
just-
brought this money.
This has
we're
been an
getting a little-
imperfect process.
Exactly.
Okay, let's all accept that. That doesn't, to me, I will tell you what it's all about for me. I want to do everything I can to make sure we have the finest fire department in the area. Because at some point, there will not be two fire departments. And we need to do everything we can do to be the hub, and I think we've done that. I think we've got the personnel, and I think that we have the resources. The facility needs to be addressed. It's not gonna be, we're gonna have to find outside of the facility. This facility here, I don't believe can be updated to accommodate what we need to accommodate.
But that's a
Some-
long-term
that's a-
discussion.
Absolutely.
There's
So-
shorter term, Tim identified shorter term things.
Yes.
That doesn't require us to reconstruct the whole building, because that's just longer term, I totally.
So we clearly need to address these, but again, to me, it comes back to, we need a strong and viable safety services, in particular a fire department. And I think, based upon everything I've looked at, this mini pumper does that, and it improves where we are. And it makes us more viable and positions us more as a hub for fire safety in this corridor. That's why I like the idea. Now, it was an imperfect process. These are imperfect times. So, we don't need to point the finger. I think, Rob, you said it. I think maybe we all agree that we want to do this. Now, how do we do it?
Question of timing.
Well, and I agree,
I totally agree.
that's why I raised the question, okay, this is an opportunity that came up. Can we adjust our budget? Can we, take some of that debt down in the permanent improvement fund? I don't have any money in there, I don't have any skin in the game. I don't have anything to give, but I would, I would give my, at least half my budget if I could.
Clearly, there can be some adjustments made
So
to
that's-
allocations in here, that kind of thing. And like I said, I think, Rob, maybe you and I were talking at cross purposes when I was talking about, and you said that we would need to borrow $127,000.
Without any cuts in this other stuff.
And that would take us to no deficit.
No, that's not true.
It takes us to the
The-
original
the-
deficit?
No, the deficit would still be the difference between 250, whatever you don't borrow, unless you cut something. Again,
Well, I mean,
if you cut some of the stuff, then that will
That's
reduce
what
the
I'm
deficit.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, doing it your way, and with no borrowing, which creates a deficit of 127,000. Is that what you're saying?
With borrowing.
With borrowing?
Well, if you borrow 127, if you make cuts here, that will reduce the amount you have to borrow, because there's not enough cash in the permanent improvement fund. It will free up cash, so you have to borrow less, and if you cut the spending here, it will also reduce the deficit impact, both things.
But
Okay.
Rob, can I just ask a
So-
question for clarity? Originally, we had a $62,000 deficit. So the incremental deficit is 127 minus 62. Is that correct?
The incremental deficit? No, that's not correct.
Well, look, I think.
We are willing to tolerate that much deficit.
Yeah, we might be, I mean, kind of arguing this deficit thing. I think, like I said, there are ways to reduce some of these allocations and cut it there.
Sure.
We can borrow some money. We'll have to agree on what the comfortable amount is to borrow, and that would reduce the deficit down even additionally.
Sure, agree, agree.
Correct. I mean, we're all good with that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of kind of hitting what is the comfortable number in terms of the deficit then that we're willing to be. We were already comfortable with 62, so there must be another number in there someplace.
Well, again, you're talking the deficit here. I'm talking, Tony and I it's the total
I'm
deficit
talking
for the whole
about
village.
deficit here.
Well, there's no, so you didn't read the report, Bill. The report says there's no longer a deficit because of the cash coming
Yeah,
in
there's
from the sale of
123
this stuff.
sitting here now.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's not a deficit, but there's not enough cash. There's not enough cash to buy this.
Right.
Right,
So
two
if you-
different things.
Again, if you cut some stuff like the building or like some of the stuff at the pool, that frees up cash.
It's funny you didn't mention tennis.
And you can cut tennis too if you want to. So you got,
Just saying.
you could do it'll free up money to be able to have cash, to be able to have a lower loan amount, and it reduce the deficit.
Yeah,
You can do
okay.
both those things.
Okay, so somewhere in there's
Yeah.
a comfortable number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I mean,
I got to say, I still am concerned a little bit about the safety issue with the stuff that came up on the list. And that's just, and it's not big stuff. It's
Yeah,
not
big
changing
stuff.
the structure of the
Clearly,
building.
It's stuff, though, it's clearly stuff that we will look at and get to. But I just think at the moment, it's like first things first.
Well, and
You know,
Chief,
we-
and I would
Firefighter
ask
safety is
Chief,
first.
Copeland and, these are your budgets. You're allowed to recommend how you would like to allocate them. And, certainly putting money into equipment is a hard asset. I mean, would you like to address that, Chief?
Well, I mean, it's like I said earlier, my first priority's always been the people that we serve. And I appreciate and agree with you that we want a safe, healthy environment for our employees also.
So I will say, since I'm committee, or chair of the committee as a whole, I will sit down with Dan and discuss these and see if we can come up with a short-term and long-term plan
For,
for those safety aspects.
For this. The
For
Tim
that-
Wiley
Yeah,
notes.
for the items
that would be
listed.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
because
we
I
need to
do
address
think
this
that we
immediately. Yep.
immediately.
Yeah.
do we put it in the safety committee?
I believe,
No, well,
looking
committee of
at
the whole has it,
the,
so.
Okay.
where
But-
Tim was talking about some
Chair of
of
safety might be
the,
available.
So, are we thinking, just to, and please correct me, I'm happy to take correction here. Are we talking about making cuts so we can afford it? So we can afford this now?
No, we're talking about making cuts so that we feel more comfortable about the size of the deficit within this budget
Okay.
that we're. Now,
So
Rob
that's
is
fine,
maybe-
I'm happy.
Rob is more concerned
Yeah.
about.
No, but
the overall village
you
deficit.
physically, you can't have a deficit in this because this is cash constrained, right? There's only so much cash in here, so you can't go negative. You literally can't go negative because they'll stop the spending.
It's just whoever gets there
There's a permanent
last,
improvement
it's
fund,
not
and
there.
Right.
It only gets 400,000 a year from 2 levies.
So,
So that's,
okay, so.
can't really run a
So
deficit
we
there.
kind of,
But yet we're showing one.
right, because we were assuming that some of the stuff wasn't
But
going to
this-
get
this-
done. We knew
yeah.
you were working on the
Okay.
building.
It says at the
We're
bottom,
assuming
we're
taking
gonna
out of
use
the
that
ARP
other
fund.
money to take
Yeah,
care of it.
we're, yeah,
Right.
exactly. We're talking about moving cash out of the ARP fund over in so that we make up for it, correct?
Yes, you could do
Yes.
that. You could
Well,
do
no,
that.
I mean, it says right here that we were comfortable doing that.
That's what we originally decided.
Yeah, we originally
Okay.
decided, it says that.
What's 184?
Yeah.
so I guess
Get another
the
184.
question I have for folks is, if this is, and again, this territory I'm a little uncomfortable with, just because I don't know a lot about what we're talking about. I just know the numbers and the percentages and the process. And so, I mean, are folks suggesting that we maybe take a look at our tax dollars and make some cuts to afford, to maybe reduce the deficit and the impact of potential debt or whatever we want to take on to afford this. Is that what people are, is there consensus around that, or is that a separate conversation?
I don't know if I understand.
Yeah, so do we need to have a conversation before we decide if there's consensus around the timing? Does it warrant a conversation now around what we should cut so that we can reallocate those funds accordingly to the truck?
From a permanent improvement budget
Yes,
standpoint.
thank you. Kelly's my translator.
That's what we pretty much decided, I thought, as
I
a
think-
committee.
Right, but I will tell you, I don't see us getting there.
But we're not gonna get all the way there.
We're not gonna get all the way there.
That's for
We're
sure.
definitely not gonna get all the way there.
Some of it, that's why I'm suggesting, some of it would have to be made up with a loan.
Well, again, instead of a loan, just take it from the ARPA funds.
Or, yes, you could
But,
do
but
that.
again, so,
You could do that.
yeah.
But, this is a very good time to borrow money, rates are good, and, inflation's high, we're gonna pay that loan off with a lot cheaper dollars than we're currently getting.
But no, because you can't, the money that it's a really easy math. The money that you're gonna pay almost 3%, and if it's sitting in a money market account, it's only earning 0.2%. That's easy math. I'd rather go ahead and pay with the cash, because I'm foregoing only 0.2% interest versus having to pay an interest rate of almost 3%.
That's
easy
true,
math.
that's true, but like I said, the dollar, there's a devaluation of the dollar that you're gonna be paying back with. I mean, did you calculate that in there?
Bill, no, that's not correct. The
What do you
devaluation is
mean
because,
it's not
the
correct?
devaluation is because it's sitting in a money market account earning 0.2%.
Okay,
That's
well,
when the devaluation takes place.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Inflation's
You're right.
7.5.
The devaluation's in the area where you want to go ahead and add more money where it's getting devalued.
Yeah, all right, all right.
So again, I would say let's go ahead and do
Can-
the ARP funds. If you want to do it, I wouldn't borrow. I'd say let's use ARP funds. But I think we also need to make some cuts in this stuff to be able to sit there and say,
I agree with that.
Yeah, there's some
We could
response.
Probably find some cuts, yeah.
so
So-
we need to do that right now,
We
right?
can,
If
if
you
you
want to
want
go
to.
through the list.
Let's do it right now.
You have the list?
I think, talking about the, here in Tim's report, the harmful exhaust systems in the bay that's going into the
Yeah, that's-
kitchen and, the building in general. I think there is, I was just talking to an individual the other day, I think there's probably a decent possibility that we can maybe obtain a grant for that exhaust system.
That'd be great.
That we could put in that bay, even though a lot of the grants we don't get because we're not a community that's broke. But I think that from talking to an individual the other day that did receive this grant for this type of system,
Yeah.
felt like that it was a very good possibility that we would
Okay.
qualify for that. So I think that's something.
Chief, I think Marcy's gonna have this discussion.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So
But I-
let's, if we're gonna talk about making a couple of cuts in this permanent improvement thing, let's talk about that
Let's do
then.
that,
Right.
yeah.
So we're going down the list. The first two, the police and paramedics, those are done. We're not
Yeah,
cutting
those are
those.
done, we can't do that.
So next is John.
So the chief's already saved us
Well-
like 30,000 on the car, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so did you
15.5.
count that? Can
It's
you
already
apply
in the
that?
numbers, yes. Remember,
Well, no,
it's-
I'm just-
It's already there.
It is in the numbers.
already
It's,
there.
well, yeah, so that's why I laid out the
That's why we're
math.
at the
That's why I laid out the math
123.
in that specific thing.
I understand
that-
that.
It's in the math, I'll give you that. Let's drop down to trees.
Yep.
That's for new trees. We always need to plant some new trees
We
around
always
here.
need to plant some new trees. So I don't know about, I don't know about the trees.
1.9 million, I heard how
Okay,
great we were.
okay. The boat, all right. All right, moving on, please. The boathouse leaks, you got 10,000 in here. Now,
Wait,
yeah, boathouse leaks. That's for the stone roof on the boathouse. Now, at the moment, I haven't even got the estimate back on that yet. So I have no idea, what is gonna be involved there.
So can it leak till next year?
No, it won't, but there'll be different ways of fixing the leak.
Okay.
You can fix it back with stone, or you can fix it back with tin, shims, kind of a thing. I'm saying that we can probably cut that in half. We got $5,000 right there. You with me?
If you think that's the right number.
I do. The truck? Ha, who needs a truck?
Leave my budget alone.
Okay, just trying to put a little levity in here, that's all. Sewers, we don't need sewers.
No, we do need that. We know that.
Well, do we have an estimate on sewers? I mean, where we get
Well-
$15,000, what do we, how do we know what that's gonna be?
I think we did 25, go down to 15.
We're
It's, no, it's
already-
at 15
we're already
already.
at 15.
Won't bypass it till next year then.
No.
Take it down the road already.
Can we go down to 10? Is that reasonable?
Possibility, yes.
All right, let's, are you writing this down, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take
I'm waiting
that-
for John to say yes before I write it down, though.
Okay,
You
let's
priced
take that
out
down
one.
to 10.
before too. So, I mean,
Yeah, but not anymore, we don't want that.
Okay, swimming pool leaks.
Wait, John, have you priced out the new trucks? Is it really 110 or is it gonna be more or less?
We're trying to get away from diesel so we can keep the cost down.
Okay.
But unfortunately, even pickup trucks, you can't even get pickup trucks. So, that's the way I'm gonna go ahead and get it worked.
Are you going to get it this year?
I can get one, yes. I can get a diesel right now.
But you don't want to, okay.
I don't want to get into the diesels. Because
Okay.
we have issues with them, with that DEF.
Yeah, okay, okay.
So I was trying to get the gas.
Okay, well, let's just leave that, we'll leave that alone for the time being. The swimming pool leaks. Now, this is gonna be a touchy issue. We know right now that we're not gonna patch leaks down there, and we're also not going to do the $140,000 pipe replacement. And at the moment, we've got a couple of estimates for paint, some landscaping work. What else do we have, Randy?
That ESOF system.
Well,
new
it
starting
sounds like
blocks.
we might not be doing ESOF now because it sounds like Linda has already put the kibosh on that. Paint and some of those things we may be able to do volunteer-wise. I'm thinking that pool budget, could easily take 20,000 right off that.
You okay with that?
Well, we could do that, but guys, there's no fat here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we went through this exercise. You know, the tennis courts have not been upgraded for 7 years.
Well, we're not
They've
to
been
the tennis
patched
courts
for
yet.
7 years.
Yeah.
So we have 50 down here, it's 110. So there's no fat here. Any way you look at it, there's no fat here.
Well, there might be a little give in this pool thing, although, you know, like I said, in terms of, you know, like I said, some of the maintenance things that they want to have done down there, we may be able to get done volunteer-wise.
So when are we gonna fix, when is the plan to fix the pipes or something?
Well, we need.
We can't do it this year
You
anyway.
can't do it this year regardless.
Okay, so that's already kicked in next year. I just wanna make sure I understand that.
Now, don't take too much out of it because you're gonna have to get freezers and refrigerators. So
Yeah, I know.
We
Well,
haven't accounted for that yet.
yeah, we haven't accounted for that yet, but I'm still leaving, what, $34,000 there?
So how
Okay.
much are you, how much
So
are
you
you
took 20 out of it, you said?
taking 20 out?
Well, I'm just tossing it out as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
number.
no,
Yeah.
no one's criticizing, I'm just
Why I
trying
brought
to
it
make sure.
up.
I know, I'm just trying to get
The
a
Centennial,
Guy.
yeah, we're taking it down,
by 20.
we're reducing it by 20. The Centennial Committee, Randy, the 50,
Well, for reasons that you and I talked about this afternoon, that really needs to stay there.
and I know the tennis needs to stay. So let's not touch that. Streets, in excess, what do we got there? John, we got 5,000 for curbs, sidewalk work. We probably need that. Okay, well, we'll let that, won't touch that. The administration building remodeling, as I said, you've given me 25,000 for that, you gave me 50 last year, I didn't spend any of it. I've got one or two things that are pretty much must-dos on this building, as I've stated, like front doors and a few other things. I would venture to say that I could probably, work all of that for, say, 15,000, so let's take 10 out of that. Auditor fees?
They are what they are.
You can't change that. That's, so.
So what have we done?
So my calculation, we're at 82 versus 62.8.
Don't look at the
No, we're-
62.8.
We're at 152.
We're-
Okay.
Huh.
You know what you got?
Well, no,
Yeah.
No, wait.
I started at 127.
Right, 127, and we've cut 40 from that.
I come up with 45.
I got, well, I have,
No, that was the
we cut
80.
5 from the boathouse, we cut 5 from the sewers.
Oh, I had 10. 5?
Yeah, I thought we went down to 10 for sewers.
Yeah, we did.
So we cut 5.
Yeah, we cut 5.
Okay.
We cut
So
5.
5 plus 5
Yeah,
plus
20.
20 plus 10 is 40. So,
Sidewalks and that, if that's just concrete, can't that just come out of general fund? Instead of permanent improvement, or out of street fund?
Yeah.
If you're maintaining, yeah, so we've said maintaining versus building new. Building new should be in the permanent improvement fund. Yeah, if it's repair, then you can take that
Well,
out.
then that's another 5. You're welcome. So now we're up to 45.
Right.
Okay. So what does that take us down to?
So, from a cash standpoint, how do I say this properly? So, from a cash standpoint, you have to borrow from the ARP funds like $82,000, which is fine.
82?
Yeah, from the ARP, and not borrow more money on the open market. Do we have an agreement on that? Did it make sense?
Well-
Look at my fiscal officer, he's shaking his head yes.
Borrow any money?
Right, because, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I totally agree. We got the money
We
there.
lose 31% of our permanent improvement fund right now. I don't wanna raise that for next year.
It's higher than
With
that, actually.
commitments.
We lose 150 out of 400,000, so,
Well, 485,000.
so you lose 38%, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so from,
Oh,
a-
We had a 90, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it is high.
and then from a,
It is a little high, because he's got 394 down there. I think the real number was 402 or 401, wasn't it?
Well, no, I based that on 485. I'm just-
Yeah, 45.
We had 90 to start with.
But the total income, he's got down at 394 on other documents. If you add it up, it's 4.
It's roughly 400, yeah.
401.
Right, 401.
Well, it's 6,000.
401, okay,
Okay, so that's 6,000.
okay.
Hey, look, I'm grabbing the straws here. I'm trying to make this work.
It's your wallet,
So,
so.
and then so there's two things we're doing here, right? We're doing cash to say, okay, how much do we use for ARP, and that's totally fine, because we're not gonna borrow money, Bill. And then,
Well,
the other,
well, go ahead.
What- ca- Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. And then the other aspect is, so there's cash, and then there's also from a deficit standpoint. So by cutting this 45,000, instead of a $250,000 deficit, instead of increasing our deficit by 250,000, increases our deficit by $205,000.
Tony, what were the deficit numbers that we had talked about yesterday?
Well, when I went back and looked at them, it was, we talked about something in the 40s.
Yeah.
It's like 50,000 is about where we're at right now,
Yeah.
from the latest budget numbers that Rob
Yeah,
and I
it
went
used to be
through.
189, we tightened things up and we got it down to 50, to say, okay, this is around where it is right now. And, because he's tightened it even more. When he and I met before, it was 69 and now it's down to 50. So again, it's a $50,000 deficit currently, and this would add another 205,000 to that deficit. Because the 250 was never built into the budget anywhere, the spending. And we've cut 45 to reduce it, so it's, instead of a hit of 250, it's 205.
So just one comment on the budget and the deficit. So some of these funds are, cash strapped, and, sometimes we don't use all of our budget in the prior year, like the permanent improvement. We've got an extra 90,000 that we started with. So that 90,000 we carried over, we're gonna spend it this year. So that kind of makes our expenses go up, because we had that extra 90 that we didn't spend last year. So that kind of skews some things, I think. So you gotta kind of keep that in mind too.
Well, so now you're sticking with that 50,000 on the deficit thing?
Say what?
You're sticking with the 50,000?
Yes, 50,000.
Because, I thought we agreed yesterday, we had it down to 39.
Yeah, I went back and looked at the official numbers that, had some time to look at it. It was 50,000, so,
Okay.
it's 10,000.
Yeah.
So again, that's the recap is, instead of 50, it's gonna be 255 as a deficit in this year.
Projected.
Correct. Bill, I'm not arguing that. I didn't argue with that before. You never know.
You never know, right. But it's a number that we're gonna, it's a projected number, and it's a number that we're gonna have to work around.
But we're
at
gonna
some
need
point.
this popper truck at some point, sooner or later, right?
Yeah.
Right, chief? So whether we spend it now,
Or-
or pay 250, or pay 300 and some, 2 years from now.
That's kind of the larger point, right. Do we wanna buy it now and save you $2,000, or do we wanna
Risk losing the
wait
opportunity.
and pay?
You don't know what you're gonna pay.
We know we're gonna pay more.
Well, unless you can find a used one. It is a possibility. but-
All right, look, have we talked this to death?
Sure.
Let's, somebody make a motion.
Well, you got a motion, what you want to motion? You want a motion, you want to buy it this year?
Let's narrow that down.
Let's accept the,
Well, the committee report had no recommendation anyway, so it's all fine. And actually, you already moved and seconded to accept the report. I don't think we ever voted on it.
Right.
right.
So that was just to accept the report.
Oh, we can,
We accept the report, and then there's a separate thing to say, what do you want to go do?
We
that's
never,
what I'm saying, we
we
can,
didn't vote on the
we
report.
didn't vote on the, let's vote on the report, then somebody will make a motion as to what we're gonna do. The next, are we good with that? We all good with that?
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
I mean, does anybody want to go home tonight?
No, I already called Domino's.
Dan and I are used to pulling all-nighters. Nothing off of our back.
All right, Mr. Barlow.
To accept the report, yes,
Yes.
aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Just accept the report, that's all.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
I'll accept the report.
Mrs. Rankin.
Overload.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
Somebody needs to make a motion to buy this mini pumper in accordance with certain terms you guys have talked about. Whether you borrow the money or whether you use.
No, we gotta make
We
that
have
clear
our-
up front too.
That's
All right, so
clear.
I move,
Gotta make
we
that clear
move
up front.
forward.
Wait,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
wait.
Using the CARES Act.
Don't let Johnny lose her mind.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Okay, Randy,
Whoever
go.
wants to make that, you understand what I'm saying, don't you? Right.
I move that we move forward with the purchase of the mini pumper truck by utilizing the reductions that we just agreed to in the permanent improvement fund and moving over any
Moving
ARPA funds necessary to
The
cover that
the ARPA
expense.
money?
I second.
The
Cover the
ARPA
difference.
money, that's what you're talking about?
You're right.
Yeah.
I second.
Mr. Bartlett.
No.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Sorry, I just need a minute.
That's all right. That's all right,
And
take a
again, I'm
minute.
not against the pumper truck, I wanna make sure people understand, I'm for it, I just think we ought to be buying it next year instead of this year, but that's just me.
I am going to. Oh, geez, sorry, guys.
It's a lot to absorb in a
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, that's right. That's why we get elected to make the decision. I just still am struggling with some of the data and also the process. I'm big into budgeting and honoring that. And this is such a big expense outside the budget. I'm struggling because that process is problematic in my mind. So I'm going to vote no.
Dr. Lewis.
I will vote yes.
Mrs. Rankin.
I vote yes.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right. Looks like we're buying a pumper truck. Now I'm totally lost my place. Tony, do you know where?
Yeah, we have
what is
another
next?
report.
Mowing services.
Another
Mowing
report,
service?
Can-
from the
But
public.
wait, there's more.
Oh, God. Can I ask, and not to, this can be tabled, but part of my struggle with that vote was also fully understanding the cost savings. And again, I'm just, I feel like I want to steward our tax dollars, everybody does here. The cost savings were theoretical written, and I really struggled with that too. And I don't know where the space is to see what the real cost savings to the taxpayers is with this process as well. So is there a way to get a hold of that too? Because, you know, I hear tires, I hear life on the truck, I hear, how does that work in a?
How do we
And I
quantify
don't want to add more work either, so I'm not trying to put that. Is there a way that this is documented and tracked so that we can steward the money? Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, I think, Assistant Chief Copeland, there is a way to show, the savings on the maintenance, right? And the, life of the tires and the maintenance on the truck and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you should be able to have maintenance expenses from
Correct.
last year, you can compare it to this year and see, did it go down or not?
Just put it for 3%.
And
That's the national average, 3% each year,
So-
especially as our trucks getting older, so.
Right, right, and that's what got built in your budget was,
Yeah,
was
that's-
the 3%. And so, but I'm just saying, you should be able to say, when your actual comes in, there's a much better line item now in UAN to be able to see exactly what the money was spent on, so you should be able to see it.
Yeah.
Well, when we will be able to track, I mean, because he does a really good job tracking the billings, so we actually will know what the
Right.
revenue of.
So the-
There is
yeah.
So that we're clear, there is a difference between like the billed amount and then the actual amount that
Right.
comes in.
Well, all that matters is the amount that comes in.
Correct.
So can I ask another question, which is, would it be possible to pay the ARPA funds back with the savings?
There's in different funds, and you don't.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fund is just for ARPA money that comes in, and then we spend it on wherever we're allowed to use it for, so we can't put anything else in there now.
Okay, so would it be possible to pay to utilize those savings to cover, some of the other pieces that perhaps we need? Or does it just go back into operating? I just don't know how that works. So if we realize those savings, where did the savings go?
One answer, I think I'm right on this, is if indeed he does increase his billing, that would go into the general fund, correct?
No,
So-
no, it goes in, he's got his paramedic fund.
It would go in the
money
paramedic
goes in the
fund.
Separate
paramedic
fund.
It's a separate fund, yes.
All the billing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ambulance revenue. The ambulance revenue shows up in the paramedic fund. So you'll be able to see it really easy. It'll be right, it's a line item.
Yeah, it's a line item.
Really
In
is.
that fund.
Yeah.
When did we do that?
When do we do what?
Ken Piper says that's not correct, that it went into the general fund.
It did go.
No, it goes into the paramedic fund.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to the general fund.
And we can table this, because
Does
it's
change,
getting
but
late,
we
but
always done that.
It's always been
I
there.
don't know, I would like to realize those savings, and again, and
Well, you would like
reinvest.
to see the savings, right? I mean, you
Yeah, I would
want
like
them
to
accounted for. You
yeah.
want to be able to see
Right,
that in
you
black and white.
quantify what, right.
Well, but honestly, so that the permanent improvement fund can build back up and we can do the things that we perhaps are tabling as well, and it's gonna take a long time, I know that, but is that possible? Is that a practice that the village can undergo? Is taking the savings that we're realizing to reinvest through the years? Is that a motion that we could entertain? Is that even feasible from an administrative standpoint? Is that appropriate?
Or how do you track it?
I have some stuff that if we do this, if you look at 2023, I can give you back 50,000. I was gonna ask for a staff vehicle.
No, that's correct.
I'm sorry? I missed
For the staff vehicle, to replace staff vehicle, we won't have to do that
We won't
now.
have to do that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. So that's 50 grand.
Okay, so that's so helpful
Yeah.
to see that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I'm
That is
looking
so
through to see if
helpful.
I can find something in here that I
Yeah,
can go back
just to
and
create a
track.
template report, and then maybe we can figure out, okay, I really am grateful, and I don't
Yeah.
mean to add more.
Well,
work.
Susan,
Thank
one
you.
thing too, I mean, that will help the permanent improvement fund is the big loans are gonna roll off in 2 more years.
Yeah.
That's not a savings from this action.
You're right, it's not a savings, but she was talking about building back up. I thought that's what she was talking about, building back up money in the permanent improvement fund that would be available for permanent improvements. Yeah, so,
Okay,
yeah, that'll be 150,000.
that's all wonderful, and then it sounds like you already are ready for that, which makes me really happy.
I'll go back through and really
Thank
dive
you.
in this and give you one.
Thank you,
I mean, it's a comfort level.
Yeah, I'll get it back to you.
thank you. All right,
Tony?
Okay. The Public Works and Services Committee regarding 2022 mowing service. The Public Works Committee met on March 10th, 2022 at 2:30 PM to discuss the mowing service for 2022. In attendance were Committee Chairperson Kelly Rankin, Committee Member Randy York, Committee Member Rob Barlett, Maintenance Supervisor John Schippenberg, and Mayor Brown. Resident John Swisher was also in attendance. Grass Corps has been the provider of lawn care services in 2020 and 2021. Due to rising costs, they are unable to provide the services at the pre-stipulated rate increase of 2%. Grass Corps has provided a revised quote, see attached, which is $64,808 versus the previous contract of $47,859. The contract quoted at 36 cuts annually, which is subject to adjustment based on actual fulfillment. The option of shortening the contractual period was discussed and determined it would have minimal impact on the cost. The other option discussed was to perform the services in-house, which would require the purchase of a 60-inch commercial mower. Mayor Brown stated that there were a few fire department personnel who expressed an interest in doing the mowing for the village. Mr. Schippenberg mentioned he had contacted Minutemen to inquire if they had a crew qualified to perform the work. The committee expressed concern about the reliability of Minutemen service. The committee recommends the following: Mr. Scherpenberg to proceed with obtaining pricing on the mower, Mrs. Rankin to work with Mayor Brown and Mr. Scherpenberg regarding the logistics of the fire department personnel performing the mowing responsibilities. The committee will reconvene on 3/15 to discuss the findings and finalize recommendation. Respectively submitted and signed by Kelly Rankin, Chairman, Randy York, and Rob Bartlett.
All right, you've heard the report. Motion and a second to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. Kelly, you want to explain this to us just a bit more? I mean, it is pretty straightforward.
It is. If there's questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Questions?
Joni, you had sent some communication that recategorizing the fire department to do this work was not going to be a problem, correct?
Right, I mean, it
Okay.
can be done.
So that's one of the steps that we needed to get through. And we'll be meeting again tomorrow
No, yeah, that's right.
to have a follow-up conversation.
Okay. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Aye. Now I'm ready to
Mrs.
go.
Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right.
Nothing's gonna happen.
Did you like how I put it in large?
Excuse me?
Larger font for you.
Oh, no, it's fine.
All right, so we're down to miscellaneous. All right, in miscellaneous, village offices will be closed in observance of Good Friday, April the
These were
15th.
extras. I don't know where they came from.
This is mine. I gave them to Chief.
Recommendations for nominations for the village strategy session. Rob, I think you probably got something to say about this?
Oh, no, because, well.
We're gonna do that tomorrow.
we
We're
on
meeting
track?
tomorrow.
Meeting
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we're meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so
Because we have, everyone's already provided that input, so we've got all that.
we kind of have all the names there?
Yeah. So now we're going back and revisiting what we had, because we had pushed it back. We're just looking at the names again to make sure we have everyone
Tweaking.
covered.
Okay, all right. Okay, guidance on the audit report?
Yeah, so I met with the audit committee last week, and they wanted to make sure that they understood what you guys wanted to get in the final report. And so I gave them my thoughts, but and what I told them was, we talked about, are the steps to address any audit issues that are identified, are they sufficient? Do they have any big concerns from reading the audit? And then any comments, suggestions, or concerns after reviewing the village's finances? So those are the three things I said I'd like to see in the report. Is there anything else you guys would want to see in that report?
I'd like to see 3 years, 3-year trend. So on-
Well, that's, okay. I can
that
get you
the-
that.
Okay.
But you don't, that's not their responsibility, but I can get you
Well,
that.
They're gonna-
my audit reports have that, yeah.
So I will get that
Yeah.
for you then. I can get
Thank
5-year
you.
trends.
3-year trends, or 5-year trends are fine too, if that is
Got it.
feasible.
Did you, Rob, did you copy me on that meeting?
Because you got assigned to me. It was on, your name was next to it, and then when I was gone for that meeting, I came back and it was,
I'm just saying, I would have appreciated
Okay.
being.
all we did was
I'm-
kick it
I'm-
off. All we did was
I
kick
know,
off the
I know,
meeting, so. And it's a process. And Tony, so you got a heads up, they've got questions, and I,
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna send, I'm compiling the questions, and I'm gonna send them to
Okay.
you, and I'm gonna copy them on it so that you can just address their questions
Yes,
straight up.
perfect.
Thing.
I mean, they're all kind of on board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's, and did Mr. Hamlin's concerns, were they addressed?
I
Did Andy
think-
address that?
Yeah, he sent an email that had the stuff, and I forwarded it on to him. So
Okay.
I believe he's okay. I haven't, he was still a little.
Okay. Well, once he gets started. Resolutions.
Can I take that off the,
Yes, it's off the list of to-dos. Also, it's off the to-do list, the task list.
Resolutions, ready?
Yes.
First one, to confirm the reappointment of Christopher M. Ertl as the village engineer for the calendar years 2021 and 2022, and to set compensation.
All right, I need a motion, well, we've had the third reading, I need a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Sorry.
Was that an aye over there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is just kind of.
Mrs.
spoke
Rankin?
A little too soon.
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right. Chris, you're back on. Get to work.
Na, 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 na.
All right, next one. To increase the tennis fees for the 2022 season.
All right, that's the second reading. Questions about that, this discussion?
Yeah, I have a suggestion.
Okay.
To change. So when I look at the differential between resident and non-resident in 2021 versus 2022, I like what they were doing for most of this. It's like, okay, the differential grew a little bit, like family resident goes from, the differential between a non-resident and non-resident is $20 and it goes to $25. And for juniors, it goes from a $6 differential to a $10 differential. But for some reason, for the adult non-resident, the differential didn't increase. And so I think my proposal is, instead of 80, let's make it 85 for the adult non-resident 2022.
Moving it from 80 to 85?
Correct. And that'll actually, again, it makes it more consistent with when you look across things too, within senior resident or senior non-resident, adult non-resident, there's a gap there, and that maintains the same gap as well.
I feel like that may have just been a typo. Randy, was
Well,
that?
no, they just did it 15% roughly. That's what they did.
Well, okay. But like I said, the differential, I would just,
I think it's also, there were only two, we were talking about should we debate this, and I think there were a total of 2 members that were
adult
Right.
non-residents?
adult non-residents, so we just said, let's just,
But I think, again, if you have people looking at these rates, they're gonna like, wait a minute, so now, again, think about this too, the senior was 60, it's just only $10 differential, now it's only a $5 differential. I think it makes it, when you post the prices, it makes it more sense.
So it's just that one change?
Yeah, just that one.
Okay.
I have a question, Randy.
Yeah.
I don't know what the membership is for tennis, but about, if you had the same membership that you had last year, how much additional revenue was this gonna generate, do you know?
I thought it was
$10.
about 15%, so $1,500, $2,000.
And I guess my next question is, given the significant costs that the tennis courts are gonna have to incur, we decided to stay with the 15% because, what, I'm just asking a question.
I'm
Don't
looking at
shake your
Bill,
head
I'm looking at Bill. I'm not looking at you, Marcy.
This needs to go up.
So what we did was we went together and so as far as what MTA has suggested, so with these rate increases and they're projecting just steady attendance, they would raise about $15,000.
Additional.
No, 15
Oh,
total.
that would be the-
It'd
okay, that'd be the rate, okay.
And then, so 15, we're upping fees for pros to use the facilities, so that's between 3 and 5. They're gonna schedule a fundraiser, and then we're gonna work with school board to get money for them using the courts, which it's been spotty at best. So our cost to maintain it with the pros and everything else is about $9,000. So doing all those actions, we're projecting to have excess revenues of about $15,000 to $20,000 a year
On the operating costs.
on operating. So when you take a maintenance program over 20 years in today's dollars, that's between $32,000 and $40,000. So they're not going to reach that. So, I think that, with doing this, they can almost meet us halfway, 15
That's a
to
good start.
20. I tell you what, if the pool did this, we'd be doing backflips. So, I look at what they've done. I think they've been diligent. I think they've got a good business model. So I'm happy with how they're doing, and I
Oh,
think,
yeah, they're doing-
I think for the amenity, if the village is $15,000 to $20,000 a year to have a viable tennis court for their citizens, I think that's very reasonable.
Thank you for elaborating.
Because that's the capital cost you're talking, those are, when you spread it
That's
over the
capital long-term, yeah. The problem is, we haven't done anything.
years. Yeah.
We've patched it for 7 years, and we're looking at $110,000 this year.
That's for all.
That's for the top
7?
4.
Top 4.
No.
It's only the
they're
top
only the
4.
uppers.
Well, that's to strip it and 2 inch of, yeah.
Okay, so we were just,
Motion second to accept to amend it.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, that was the second reading. We'll have the third reading next time.
On the-
Tony,
On the
ordinances?
ordinances, yeah. To confirm the reappointment of Alyssa Wendler as part-time IT administrator for calendar years 2022 and 2023.
All right,
To
Chair.
increase compensation.
Okay, you've had the third reading. I need a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Excuse me, Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right. She's got her job back.
All right, next one, to repeal ordinance O-18-21 pertaining to maximum pay rates for all grades of recreation employees and to enact new legislation pertaining to maximum pay rates for all grades of recreation employees.
All right, that's the third reading. I need a motion and a second to adopt.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, that'll be adopted.
All right, to amend ordinance O-21-21 of the Merrimack Code of Ordinances to increase payment for employees.
All right, that was the third reading. I need a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
And Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, that'll be adopted.
Our next one, ordinance amending chapter 150 of the Merrimack Code of Ordinances regarding building regulations, general provisions.
All right, second reading. Any questions on this? Too tired to make a comment?
Oh, no, I'm already in the too many questions zone. I will behave myself.
No, you know what you're talking about. You did fine. All right, we'll have the third reading next time.
All right, to amend chapter 152 of the Merrimack Code of Ordinances, rental dwellings and units.
All right, that was the
Hey,
first.
Bill, we're
Oh,
gonna-
yeah, we're gonna.
Table that one. I
Oh,
gotta make
oh.
some tweaks to that ordinance. New case, relatively new case came out that makes it a little bit more difficult for us to do the inspections the way we want to, so I gotta change some provisions in the ordinance before we actually present it to council.
Okay, so that's no reading on that, then.
So we're gonna table it.
Yeah, table it right now.
So I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we'll table that for now. We'll be working on it.
I'll have it done by next week, and Randy, I'll give you a call on that and on this Karen Albert, what's her name? The yard contract?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna need a resolution on the
I
art
need to ask
contract.
you about
Okay.
that.
All right. All right. Good.
Yeah, well, we can't discuss it now, but I can't sign it until we get the, yeah.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, well, Lord knows somebody's jumping to make that happen.
So,
All right.
That's what happens.
All right,
No.
are we done?
Well, are we, Bill, the task list, when are you gonna write the financial recap? That was supposed to be back in January. And it would have helped, I think, this whole conversation about
I met with
the
Tony.
mini pumper.
I met with Tony yesterday. We went over some of the numbers.
Because you're supposed to look at last year and give us a look at that, and as well as, there's a whole report that said, please give us a recap of last year and what's it looking like for the coming year. And if we'd had that, it could have helped a lot, I think, with some of this conversation. Because we would already know where we were,
Yeah.
right? It would have helped with that. So when are you gonna do it?
Soon.
So, that's really difficult.
Moving on,
So you're taking care of the Porsche rally though, too, right? So should
I've
we?
already responded back to Grant regarding the Porsche rally.
Right, but I'm just saying, you're handling it, right?
Yeah, it's been handled.
What's the status?
Well, I mean, Mr. Grant's reply to me was, not too pleasant, so I don't know where we are.
About,
Well, okay, but.
I handed it back to him.
Right. So it's you, though. You're handling this thing. It should go onto the list, because whatever the result is, you're working with him on it,
Right.
right? That's all.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we capture that, because it needs to be on the list.
It needs to be on the list.
Yeah.
It needs to be captured.
You said you're doing the ESOF thing, ESOF software as well, the registration software for pool and tennis? You're working on that?
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
really,
Yeah, I am
Yes.
too. I'm working on that. I received something from Eli. I talked to Bill about that today. I gotta get my arms around what we want to do, and I think Bill gave me a pretty good idea today. He told me to call Allison tomorrow to try to get a better handle on what it is.
There's some problems with it. We may not use it.
Okay, because I know tennis is going to open up April 1st. for new
Tennis is not going to
memberships.
use it.
Tennis is not gonna use it.
Tennis is
They're
not
not
gonna
gonna
use it.
use eSoft? Or
No,
GovSoft or whatever?
Yeah, they're gonna use eGov.
This is the current one. They're gonna use the
Current
current
one.
system.
All right.
Yeah, they're not
But
using
how about the
eSoft.
pool? Is it pool?
Well, it's a
We
little
got,
doubtful.
we have to
Say it
follow
again.
up with them. We have to follow up with them. There's some, it can't identify resident, non-resident. There's no GPS associated with it.
Okay.
So for our purposes, it's not gonna work. So tennis does not want to use it.
Yeah.
And Pool wants to use it. What we have to figure out is the reason Pool wants it is so you can load up a card, so to speak, and the kids can use it.
Right.
So we need to figure out, is it worth it to do it for just for the snack bar? Because the current system works
Right.
for registration.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and just without digging into it any further, just so you know, you got a 3-year contract there. If you terminate a portion of it, technically we're breaching. You know, now Eli believes that we may be able to diffuse that breach a little bit by saying, hey, wait a minute, there's no assignment clause in the current contract as
Right.
it is. They've assigned it to another company. That may work, it may not work. But
Well,
either
but-
way, we could be on the hook.
But if tennis is using it, we're not gonna cut it off. We're not gonna shut it down.
Oh, okay.
So I think
Okay,
that
all
makes
right.
it a moot point, right?
All right, well,
Tennis is
it is,
still gonna use-
okay, then you answered my question. Oh, perfect.
From what I just heard, tennis is not gonna use the
Tennis
new,
is not gonna use
they're
it.
gonna stick with the old stuff.
All right, I
So,
got you.
Robert, we have a foundation meeting tomorrow. So we will,
Oh,
we
good.
will complete the paperwork tomorrow.
We have identified our board.
We have a board, so that'll essentially be done. Now, there is some discussion. You can get an EIN in 2 days, so that will happen. Unfortunately, we will likely not be recognized by the IRS as a 501(c) for a year. So while I think we can carry on our activities, my guess is if it's a major endowment or a foundation or anything like that, until
Yeah.
we get the official okey dokey, I don't think we're gonna, that's not to say we can't ramp up, but I don't think we could do the big things until.
Do we have to approve the bylaws and the board in this, to do this?
I don't know.
For the Centennial Committee?
No, this is a
For
foundation,
the foundation.
yeah.
I think it's separate, because I think they're trying to make it separate from.
Right.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I
So
think
people
that
can
in
get
our
money and get
bylaws
the
is that,
No, we
it
don't
does say
as the
that
Village of
one,
Merrimack. We
the
don't
mayor
need to,
will,
no.
will appoint one per member of council at all times will be on the board.
Okay.
That's one of the things we've got. And we'll finish it up and then we'll share it with everybody.
Okay.
And then if,
Yeah, sure.
if we need to address it here,
Yeah.
we can.
So the IRS has said they're not gonna issue temporary numbers,
They,
I think we were getting a temporary
Yeah,
number,
yeah,
weren't we?
not the
yeah, but.
not the C3, a
I
temporary.
could verify that tomorrow. It was my understanding that you
I
get
mean,
your
it could-
EIN and you, but for them to officially say, oh, we vetted you, you're fine.
Right.
It'll be a
that-
year.
A year.
You get the form.
So we just have to qualify, it's my understanding, we just have to qualify, pending,
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
And my guess is if it's a large donation, my guess is they may not be comfortable with that qualifier. Maybe, I don't, I wouldn't be comfortable unless it was,
okay.
So
Fully
Joni, number 3 on the task list, again, that's done now. So scratch
Okay.
that off. Chris, what's the status of the, getting the reimbursement from ODNR? Do we,
I'd like Pinnacle to cash that check.
they're still haven't cashed
They
it?
still haven't, I can't call out tomorrow, but they haven't cashed it.
Are you kidding me?
No,
Oh, my word.
no, I don't know. I mean, I can go ahead and submit the rest of it, but that's a large portion, I like the.
How much was it?
It was a $21,000 check in cash, and we get 75% back from ODNR. So, and then we've got to explore other things with that, so.
When did you talk to them last?
Them, I haven't talked to them since.
Well, I mean, did you,
I.
to ask them, like, hey, you gotta.
Allison emailed me, she was on the system through AUN or whatever, that she can see if they cash it or not.
That form 1023.
It was just last Tuesday, but they still hadn't drawn checks.
Oh, that's,
I can call tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So Bill, what about the boathouse?
Well, like I said, I'm in the process of getting the estimate. We've met with the guy, he's come out and he's sourcing material and, it's,
Randy, you've got a list of places that might have grant money for historical structures, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would that be something, I mean, it seems
It's
like we could try
possible.
and get some money.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
Okay, so where do we stand on the hydrants and benches and curbs?
We picked a color.
It's beautiful, Randy.
That's
It matches
nice.
your shirt.
That's great.
oh, my gosh, that's,
Okay,
Rock
What's,
garden.
what else, what's the next step then?
Thanks.
Well, John and I talked about today, what's that little, Amberley's, you were gonna check with Amberley? I know we just talked about it today.
Do we have that, or do they have it? They have it. Because we own half of it. Yeah. We bought it together with them. Yeah.
So I guess as soon as it gets warm, we can start, right?
Okay.
Now that we've done the hard part, pick the color.
So Randy, you got the next one too then, huh? Assessing the parks?
Assessing parks, that
Yeah,
seems like
well, John and I talked
overwhelming.
about that. Also sent the list to Marcia Duvall, who is the president of the Park Board.
Park Board.
I had a conversation with her. She was gonna address it, look into it. At some point, we need to get Garden Club invited. I haven't engaged them yet. And then get all that together and then get with John and, you know, it is a facelift. That's what it is. It's not a long-term plan. We do have, the mayor and I have a guy from Human Nature coming in on the 24th to look at all the parks. This is the company that does the design and layout for Hamilton County parks.
Oh, cool.
So,
Cool.
The bulk of the parks get the facelift. They're the two bigger parks, Dale Park and the Statuary, and Dogwood Park. Now, there's, you know, much bigger projects planned there.
Yeah. So you guys are working on that stuff,
Yeah.
okay? What, so Bill, we got a bunch of swim pool stuff.
Well, the swimming pool stuff is kind of the same from last time. I mean, the new contract, the activities, Swim Safe's gonna do the concession stand. We're not gonna fix the leak. To determine who, Swim Safe's, they're gonna manage the concession stand.
You want me to take that off then?
Yeah, take that
Fix
out
it.
of there. Ed Beck, I believe, is retiring.
Is he or isn't he?
Well,
You say believe.
You know,
Are we paying, are we gonna pay?
no, we're not gonna.
Okay, so he's retiring then.
Yeah.
That makes it pretty clear.
Yeah. Long-term master plan for the pool, you're right. I mean, that's an ongoing,
yeah, we simply don't, we don't know the answer to
we
that
don't know the
question.
answer to that, yeah. I mean, other than we know we'd like to have a long-term plan. So that's a work in
Can
progress.
Shamrock do that? No, just a maintenance plan. I know that we've maybe gotten conflicting information
Yeah, in
from
fact,
the.
we were just down here, not yesterday, day before, repaired the main pool. We
Okay.
got a lot of all the leaks there, so.
And they say they can reline that and increase the useful life by 10 or 15 years, is that
Well,
accurate?
Yeah, I'm gonna meet with him and go over everything.
Yeah, we just need a, just like we have with the,
So,
Well, this stuff's not that
yeah,
important.
really, it's all about what are our long-term capital
make it
needs so that we know every year, just like with tennis, this is what we need. So-
yep.
So we don't just run into it. So if you could facilitate that, that would be awesome.
All right, master plan for improving the office space. That's, well, you guys just whacked
You
my
got no
budget
money
here
left.
tonight.
You got no
Yeah,
money.
yeah, you can take that off the list.
Right.
Take
Whoop.
that, yeah, get rid of that, boy.
See if we
Yeah.
can get a volume discount on that paint.
Yeah. But I mean, well, it's gonna take time
Yeah, it's a
anyway.
nice
We need one, as I told you, I'm gonna work on a few of the
It's rock
immediate
garden.
needs on the
Joey,
building.
wanna
That's my
work
master
this
plan
color?
for now. You know, back to that. Find backfill replacement for fiscal officer and assistant fiscal officer.
Yeah, we got both of them.
Yeah, we got all year for that, maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Got plenty of time, yeah.
No.
I wouldn't give that one a tell.
We'll relaunch the rental inspection program. I mean, you heard Ed address that here tonight. You know, we're gonna tweak the legislation, the teeniest bit, try to pass it.
so we can take that up.
Well, but
Yeah.
is there an action, so one is the legislation, then two is actually going out and doing it, right?
We do.
We've got a plan.
Yeah.
We've got, Rod's already talked about it, how he's gonna implement it. We're gonna ask for volunteers first. If, you know, if you're changing tenants or whatever, do you wanna do it now? So we're gonna offer that up, and then he's got a system of how, you know, he's gonna divide up, do the addresses, divide up ownership, so we're fair. A third, a third, a third. So in 3 years, they're all done.
Excellent.
There's a lot of units, you know, you
Yeah, yeah.
you can't
No,
get.
there's a lot.
Is
I
that
totally get
staying
it.
on, or
That's
may
good.
that come off?
I think it can stay on until we get it, I'd like it
Okay.
to stay
Well,
until
we get the.
we get it
yeah, until we
passed.
get it-
Yeah, well, I'll tell you next week, but I think that the law is getting as such, it's gonna be more and more difficult for us to actually gain access to these units if they don't want us to gain access to the units, you know. They've taken the position it's a Fourth Amendment violation. And there is some case law that suggests it is, which I find incredible, but we have to get around that.
Yeah, we'll work on
Do the fire inspection, it's just of the open areas.
Say it again?
When we do the fire inspection for them, we only do the open
Right, right,
corridors.
yeah, yeah.
Not
Which is
everything.
okay, you know, the outside is fine.
Yeah.
It's the inside that sometimes will give people problems, you know?
The,
Deputized.
the bell tower, the bat, you know, where, I don't know, where, I gotta be honest and say, I don't know where we are in the batting cages. Randy, do you know where we are?
Oh, I don't, I have to go back there and look. I
Look.
know that they're gonna put that up, put the,
Put that,
AstroTurf down.
Yeah.
yeah,
But they were-
that's my bad. I'll follow up on
Well,
that.
does your name belong next to it? Because we got Bill's in there. Is it yours
Well,
instead?
change-
or-
Well,
Let's change it to Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, change it to Randy's.
I live closer.
I don't wanna hog all the work.
He doesn't wanna take all the glory
I'm
for
just
all
glad I
this.
made it on one with Chris.
Yeah, well, all right, Kelly, the last one's yours. Have you been walking down in Whiskey Creek
As a
lately?
matter of
Oh,
fact, we have.
okay, by the way, yeah, because all joking aside, Clem Lucan approached me a couple days ago. Apparently, a big log that's fallen behind his house, you know, down at, you know, up against one of those embankments down there, and he is all concerned about it. Erosion, you know, I don't know, should we get down there and take a look at that to see if maybe John needs to get down there with a chainsaw and cut it out?
But
Whose
whose
law?
property is this?
Wait, what?
Well, it's
The
on
private
village
property?
property, but it's behind Clem Lucan's property.
Yeah, let's be careful on that stuff. I mean,
Is that our property or is that his property?
It's our property.
It's our
It is
property,
property.
but he's worried about the erosion aspects of it to his property. I'm just mentioning it. He voiced a concern to me, and I'm passing it along.
Hey, Randy, for next meeting, could we go through the pool budget stuff? Because
Oh, yeah, I can forward it to all of you. You can,
Well, but could we put it on the agenda for next meeting to go through that? Because I think we need to have a
yeah, well,
conversation.
yeah. Because it was gonna, I'll make it part of a committee report for next time.
Okay. Very good.
Anything else? I hesitate to ask.
Oh, wait. Turn the page.
Oh, no, you,
Parking lot
Oh, yeah.
light
oh, you
issue.
gotta be kidding.
Well, that
Oh,
just got added. Last meeting, I think, right?
well, now that,
I'm just being thorough.
we're gonna have a little get-together with
A little powwow.
your neighbor and chief and,
Should I set that up? Do you want me to set that up?
why don't I call you tomorrow or something? We'll talk about trying to set it up.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get something worked out.
I'll just get a date from you.
All right, we're adjourned.
good job.
So you're fixing me now.